So 2021 is looking good for the auto industry. There have been a flurry of new launches, and Mercedes has just made some big announcements that they're going to be launching about 15 new models in 2021. In terms of sales, of course, compared to 2019, they haven't done so well, but given the pandemic and the shortage of models which Mercedes had, they've notched up close to 7,900 sales. Anyway, talking to me about Mercedes and the year ahead and the year gone by actually is none other than the Managing Director of Mercedes-Benz India and the CEO, Martin Schwenk. Martin, thanks for talking to us. Happy New Year. First time we are talking in the new year, and looks like 2021 is going to be off to a good start. And, hopefully we will forget the kind of dark 2020 that just passed.
Thanks, Hormazd, for having me. Yes, of course. I think we are all hopeful for 2021, and that goes into multiple dimensions, from our, say, personal life to the pandemic situation, which we feel can get further improved. And then obviously business side, we have seen a lot of positive development over the last couple of weeks and months. So I'm really, really hopeful that 2021 will prove to be a good year. At least it comes with a lot of hope.
Right. I just want to touch on 2020. Obviously, there were a lot of issues. Initially, there was basically fundamentally it's all been supply issues, lockdown issues. Do you think you could have done better numbers in 2020, given the fact that some of your models could have been launched? I mean, you had the A-class limo, you had the GLA, a lot of models which were due. Also, a lot of models which really weren't there because of the BS6 transition. So just to get your sense of how 2020 really panned out for you. Of course, you all are still market leaders by far, but could it have been better?
I mean, hindsight, you could always think it could have been better, but if you had asked me 6 months ago whether I will come out with the result we have now, I would have been very satisfied. I mean, the scenario had drastically changed between, say, mid-year, then ramping up to the fourth quarter. We really see a strong rebound. And in that fourth quarter, we had very strong sales in all of our models from C-Class up. We could exceed in this range what we sold in 2019. However, as you already mentioned, the COVID also delayed our ramp-ups. And whilst we had planned earlier last year to launch GLA and also the A limousine in latest then in the fourth quarter, we couldn't keep that. Because of the delays there. And also we had some constraints when it comes to the SUVs, the GLE and the GLS. So if without these restrictions, we would have had, I think, quite a bit a higher number than we actually could turn out now. But I think at the end, that's the conditions we are in and we're dealing with it. So overall, I'm still very happy that the recovery happened in that way, that our quarter four was actually still 40% better than the quarter three. And we still see not only a pent-up demand, we see also that there is demand for our new products, and I'm very positive with that going into 2021.
Right. And, just to talk about the kind of limitations you had in 2020, clearly the lockdown was there, but the lockdown kind of has lifted for the last couple of months. Was international travel an issue? Because I think for some of your models, you do need technicians coming down from Stuttgart to kind of get the line going. So I just want to know if that also was one of the big kind of challenges which you faced, that, just to get the qualified personnel coming down to really kick off, let's say production for some of the new models.
Yes, that is definitely one of the constraints we have been faced with. Whilst we have very competent staff in Pune, still for some critical tasks and for some release of processes, procedures and product features, we are required to have support from the Daimler centers in Germany. And there were issues around the travel restrictions. The whole pandemic situation actually made it very difficult. And obviously, that's not only us as a market, there are other markets also impacted. So somehow at the end, it's about managing the different markets. And it was very difficult for us then to get the support. In mostly of that is really related to the travel situation, whilst the components for producing our A limousine, the GLA, that's there. When we talk about the SUVs, about GLE, GLS, that's not these restrictions. We had launched these vehicles already prior to the pandemic, and we were quite set up to do so. There we come more into restrictions of overall supply and strong demands in over the globe.
Right. So, just your thought on, the market. I think the bounce back of the auto industry has taken everyone by surprise. OEMs, just everyone involved with it, even the suppliers, really, we've had issues on semiconductor shortages and all, because really capacities were kind of moved elsewhere. What do you think is driving this kind of real strong bounce back, and especially at the luxury end, where a lot of people predicted it would be the last to recover? So just your thoughts on what is really driving demand now in your segment, where it's really a discretionary purchase.
Yeah, but if you look into India, for example, I can clearly say what helped is the relative stability that unfolded month over month. I mean, if you look into the unlock strategy at the end, we have to say it really played out well. We didn't have any, say, lockdowns again with shutdowns of workshops, of dealerships. So we had a consistent opening, and luckily that followed also the reduction in new cases of the infections. So that overall, I think, created a lot of stability, and I believe that also helped to create overall a positive trend in the industry. If you look really, or I should say in the economy, if you look overall, for example, GDP projections, which were given, say, July, August timeframe to what you see now for the fiscal year and also for the following fiscal year, you can clearly see there's a clear uptick. It's definitely not as bad as it was planned or forecasted 6 months ago. And we see that not only in GDP, we see that in a lot of different criteria around. I mean, it could be a purchase managers index. It can be it can be stock market. There is many indications. Housing market. You see a lot of positive sentiment. And if I look now into our customer base, into the customer base in the luxury segment, I believe a lot of confidence into the future was gained again. I mean, at the beginning, a lot of uncertainty, but with growing stability, and also then finding ways of dealing with the pandemic, and then finding ways also moving and transforming the business for the future. I could see a clear uptick in the demand, and also I think that's based on confidence in future development. So overall, a big improvement. Also, then if you talk about the lending market, for example, we have seen a reduction in critical loans. So non-performing loans have gone down. Financing got more widely available. So I think that also helped. And then obviously the festive season as a catalyst itself helped the overall industry. If I look into our brand, then I would still believe the many new models we have in store pushed also the demand. So that, in my view, are the main contributors.
Right. And let's talk about 2021. Obviously, an exciting year. You've talked about 15 models. You've not said what all the 15 are. But what are your projections? I mean, is it going to be what was originally 15 planned for 2021, or is there some spillover of 2020 that's kind of gone into 2021?
No, of course, we have a spillover. I mean, we still have not the full availability of our vehicles. That is true for GLE, GLS, for example. We're still looking at 1 to 3 months waiting period here. That will take another couple of months, say Q1, to get that resolved. And on the other hand, we have still our GLA and A limousine, which are still ramping up now in the first quarter. So really, all our product offensive will fully kick in then in Q2, April starting. And that will mean in the first quarter, we will still have this impact. And when I talk about the product offensive as well, whilst last year we did mostly refresh our SUV range, we will only this year and subsequently then get the full benefit of the 10 models we launched 2020 and the 15 models we launched in 2021. So the overall benefit of the new range will only then come in 2022, and that means 21 will remain a transition year also based on our ramp-up strategy, and that is not really the issue around the demand side. That's more the question of our model changeover and ramping up of our new cars.
So interesting. You're saying 2021 is a bit of a transition year. You aren't going to see your full demand potential achieved in 2021. But having said that, obviously it will be far better than 2020. Do you see it getting back to 2019 pre-COVID levels? Or do you see that, again, this is really, you're still far away from the kind of peaks you hit earlier?
I mean, again, we will have to see how it plays out over the next couple of months. But overall, we think it will take next year and 2022 to come more to the levels of 2018, which was our best level we had. So we are at the moment thinking of something like 40% growth next year, this year, and 40% growth next year, around these numbers. So it all depends. Again, will the demand be as stable as we have now our current projections? Do we get any additional impact from the pandemic situation? At the moment, we would assume it stays under control or in the similar way as it is at the moment. And then it hinges around the supply situation that we are able to do our ramp ups and eventually then also get rid of some of the constraints we are having.
Right. And, Martin, what are the trends you're seeing in the luxury car segment? Is there a trend to generally downsize because people do want luxury cars, but they want to be a little prudent about it, which might play to the strengths of the, A-class limo and even the GLA? Do you think there is a trend like this, and there's an opportunity for these models which really are at the starting point of your range in SUV and sedan segments?
Quite frankly, I don't think we have a general trend in that direction. What we see performing very well, also in crisis, is always our AMG brand. Our dream car is performing well. But if I go past and beyond now into the fourth quarter of last year, I already mentioned we sold more in the segment C-Class and above because we didn't have also the GLA and A limousine. So I think there is no general trend in terms of downsizing. I would rather think there's a potential to attract new customers in that say entry segment, but I don't see a general trend in downsizing in that area, at least not for us. I'm not sure how that works for other brands, but for us, I think our portfolio is very attractive. And what we see, for example, on the SUVs, but I'm also very clear on even C-Class, E-Class, we see very good numbers, and I think no, there is no such trend I can see at the moment.
Right. So what you're saying is you are looking at pulling in new customers with, let's say, the A-class limo and even maybe the GLA to some extent. And do you think, with that, what percentage? I know it's hard to predict, but do you think that's going to kind of expand the base for you dramatically because you've not had these models for a while?
I think it will definitely bring our base to say a foundation which we had in 18 and before. So we will definitely have a potential to grow from there where we had been at that point in time. So I see clearly a potential, but I'm also realist enough. I think with the pricing we will be still not in the premium segment where it's achievable for everyone who would wish to have one of these cars. So at the end, based on our pricing and costing position, I don't think that we have a substantial game changer here. We will definitely see a strong catch in that area. And I think we have clear potential compared to where we operated the CLA, for example, and the old GLA. That is based on a completely different product. It's much more attractive, and it fits very well the time. You have seen the cars, so I really think that will help. But overall, it will not be a game changer to push us completely into that segment, and we will be kind of living off this segment.
Right. So I think, Martin, what you said is that pricing is not going to be one of the key drivers in this segment. You are going to maintain that premium position, which really leads me to, let's talking about the cost structure in the luxury car segment. I mean, you've announced a big increase in price across the board for some of your models. I just want to talk about the cost structures of the luxury car segment. I know there are higher duties, but are there other costs? I mean, what is really the cost challenges in this sector, and how much of an impact really does it have on demand? I know there's a lot of elasticity, but at the end of the day, the demand is actually finally restricted by the really very high cost structure in this segment.
I mean, obviously, if we take cost, that has always different elements. Cost to the customer is not only the vehicle. A lot of that is obviously also attributed to GST and cess taxes on top. That is a big issue in my view, but it's only multiplying the cost base we already have. And we have clearly to say that our relatively small numbers, they will require us to have we cannot localize all components. There's a lot of material we need to bring in. And you can see the entire auto industry is grappling with the effects of commodity prices and at the same time of, currency references. For us, definitely, if you go and compare how the rupee has developed against the euro, which is very decisive to us. We talk 10% plus a change there over the last 9 months. And then, it's not that we have thick margins we can live on. So at the end, between commodity and input cost, we actually have to react if we don't want to take the content out of the cars. And I think that's not an option. We rather want to add content. And with that price increase, we also added functionality. For example, we added Alexa and Google Home integration now. So we look into how can we, to some extent, bring also additional functionality instead of bringing cost down and then customer benefit down as well. But it remains a difficult task, specifically for manufacturers who are not having the largest scale. And we have to deal with that also in future. That's for me relatively clear.
Right. And Martin, just looking at the AMG range, obviously you've that's one small niche that again you've really taken the lead on. You've localized the GLC 43, and right now, I mean, big news is you're bringing the AMG GT Black Series. I mean, that is quite a car to bring. So just your thoughts on how AMG is panning out for you all, because obviously this is one segment where, let's say, cost isn't so much of an issue, and clearly it's a small niche segment, and there's it seems to have been hardly impacted by what's happening in the world around us.
I mean, the performance cars are very attractive to say the relevant audience. I mean, obviously that's not everyone, but we believe that with the AMG brand, we have a very strong element in our strategy, which is worthwhile further exploring. So whilst we have on the top end, you mentioned the GTs, we also think that there is another group of customers who love to differentiate themselves and who want to drive a performance vehicle. I mean, the GLC 43 Coupe in that sense is really a logical consequence that we took up a local production on that to put it at a price point where, I mean, an AMG or performance car was not reachable. And I mean, we'll see what we do further on here. For us, it's a core pillar in the brand strategy to move on AMG and to make it available actually into a wider range. I also spoke about the experience we want to create about that. So we believe AMG is a core element of our sub brands, which we further want to push. It is a brand shaper at the same time, and we have seen success not only in sales numbers but also in terms of customer feedback, in terms of profitability and so forth. So for us, it's the right strategy to further follow.
Right. Martin, just last few questions. I just want to talk on certain trends. Obviously, you're one manufacturer very strong in diesel, petrol, now even electric with the EQC. How is the diesel petrol demand, panning out going? Are you seeing a stronger shift to petrols, or do you think that if there's a good, refined, clean diesels, people are enjoying diesels as well? Because a lot of people are saying that, the diesel demand is going to just go away as we move forward. But just understanding from, your side, because you've got strong petrols and diesels in your range.
I mean, good that you mentioned that also. Our portfolio itself, I mean, we are very flexible to react on what we feel the market wants. What I would say, and we had this conversation several times before, how is diesel developing? I would believe it still has a large audience, and we see that in our numbers when we talk about SUVs, when we talk about our sedans, specifically in the larger segments. And I would think personally that this is remaining. We will see potentially, specifically in the entry segment, that it's more approachable, and I mean, in terms of cost to the customer, also more likely to go for a petrol engine. So we see potentially in the entry segment a move towards petrol engines, but in the SUV and large SUV specifically, and also in the bigger sedan world, I would say that's not the main concern. The diesel engines have their say there and will remain there very strong.
Right. And, talking about the EQC, Martin, I mean, small demand, I don't think really large numbers. Are you happy with the response to it? And what do you think could really trigger, let's say a bigger demand for the product like the EQC? What are you getting? Is it price? Is it charging practicality, charging infrastructure? What could really, let's say, accelerate the growth for demand of
let me say, we have very good, very good interaction and reaction on the product. What we had originally ordered for India, we have sold these vehicles, and we have now the next lot of vehicles coming. So I think overall demand is developing in a positive way, but even more than the demand is obviously the interest into the vehicle. So we have a lot of people who acquaint themselves with the idea itself, and I believe that is a process also. I mean, it helps to have a discussion around that. It helps to have a product to show a vehicle, but then we have also to see the EQC is certainly not a mainstream car. It is more like a performance car in that segment, and for us, it's the first try into the electric segment. So, and I think we take a lot of learnings out of that. And the customers will take a lot of learning, so it will build some momentum. What of course it helps is if the entire industry is having more and more electrification, and then for sure it is also about framework and infrastructure. I would hope that the incentive frameworks remain the way it is in terms of when we talk about GST, for example. I would hope that there is positive development, for example, on duty situations as well, to grow to a relevant, more market relevance. On the other hand, definitely infrastructure, fast charging options is necessary. I mean, today in an EQC, you can, in the MBUX, you can actually get directed to the fast charging positions that would be that you can recharge your car, but you would know from your own experience that
they were not available. So
yeah, so you still have to, the network is not big enough yet for fast charger. And I think so that means at the end, infrastructure is certainly one of the criteria everyone is looking for in order for further deployment. So, but I think we are working in steps. It's a stepped approach. We have the first cars there. The customer interest is coming. Government is also on that direction. So we will see infrastructure measures, as we have heard from several outlets already, that activities are there happening also in fast charging stations and so forth. So I think it will just take a little bit time to come through, and I would hope in the meantime it remains supported by taxation policy supported drivetrain, because we will need time to really fully develop in that into the markets.
Right. And Martin, last question is let's say the luxury car segment. Looking at the size of it, it seems to really not growing or exploding like some other segments are over here. Looking at it, it seems to be stuck around 35, 40,000 units, thereabouts. Obviously, you are the market leaders in that. I mean, what is your sense? I mean, it also must be frustrating that, the growth isn't much bigger than one would expect. Obviously, the chicken and egg situation, you need volumes to localize more, which should drive down prices and then make it more accessible. So what is your overall long-term outlook for the luxury car market in India?
I think after years now with recovery, we will continue, and I also showed that we will continue to see consistent growth in the next couple of years. We will also, as a brand, put our efforts into to make the latest technology and the latest model available in India wherever we find interest. And you know that we have the wide range of vehicles and up to 25 different models. We will continue that strategy. But you're also right. On the other hand, obviously, whilst on the one hand there is a customer group who can afford that vehicle, it's also very difficult at this price point to have a wider audience. So the products, they are desirable for many people, they are aspirational for many potential customers, but it's also difficult. Not everyone can and want at this price point act. And there I'm talking again about the price point for a customer, which is only to a certain extent based on our cost and our structures. It's also still a lot of burden, which I think for the entire premium and luxury car segment is still a major issue, is the CES structures and the PST on top of the vehicles, and then you put the road tax on top. So it is just a very expensive offering for some of the models. And I think that is definitely limiting the market development. It limits at the end the development, what models come to India, and at the end also, I mean, if you don't have volume, you don't have local production, and it has a lot of ripple effects as well. So the benefit of a stronger footprint are not completely leveraged at that stage. And I see obviously one of the biggest hurdles is the absolute price, the absolute on-road costs a customer has to purchase a vehicle in that segment.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, Martin, with that, I'd like to say let's just hope that the kind of economics do work out. Luxury segment does grow with the rest of the industry. But I just want to wish you all the best for 2021. I think everyone is looking forward to a much better year, and hopefully it will be. And once again, wish you all the best, and congratulations again on another year of leadership in the luxury segment, which I think is your 6th year of leadership in the luxury segment. So congratulations and all the best.
Thanks, Hormazd, and have a good start into the year as well. I'm looking forward to meet you in person soon again.
Look forward. Thank you.